Okay, welcome everybody to the Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, Town of Dudley Gov't Study Committee. First item on the agenda is call to order and pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Without any objection, I think I'll go a little bit out of order. Since we have some good, nice visitors here today, I think we'll just jump to item 3B, which is discussion with the town accountant, principal assessor, and the treasurer collector.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Could I take the liberty to ask one question to Mr. Carmignati? Did you receive the email with the questionnaire?
I had
I think there was a problem there.
forwarded
if
to
I'm
me
correct.
9:39 this morning.
Okay.
That should have been yesterday.
Yeah, I think it went to an incorrect email. Whatever the problem was, we apologize. Have you had an opportunity to review them?
I did. I mean, it looks like it went to the accountant, the assessor, and the town administrator.
Yeah, I believe we started with the letter T and didn't go any further. TR.
Our apologies.
We do apologize. So we've asked the three of you here, and if you may or may not know that our committee has been meeting with several individuals and larger groups like the Highway and Sewer Department. We met with the treasurer collector and town clerk a couple of weeks ago, and we wanted to meet now with some representatives of different town offices, and we're also going to be looking at other town boards and whatnot, to take a look at the items we've been discussing and kind of discuss how they might affect different areas of town government. We've been researching and presenting on topics like communication, technology, elections, charters, town meeting, forms of town meeting, training, all in an effort to figure out if we need to enact any improvements perhaps through town meeting and bylaws and whatnot to change the way Dudley works. We've been doing it with research of neighboring towns, looking at best practices, and really just looking at the best practices, I think, in as far as what local governments are doing for our size, demographic, and whatnot. So we as a group came up with several questions, which were forwarded to you either Monday or Tuesday, or Monday or Tuesday. And we were hoping that we could just discuss some of these with you to get your opinions about things like the Division of Local Services report, how it affects some of your departments. Other questions here about communication, operational issues, and how any of our topics here might help your departments become more effective as you work within town government. Because ultimately, I wrote up this summary a while back, our goal is to make recommendations that are developed in a spirit of collaboration and transparency with the goal of enhancing the town's efficiency, professionalism, ethical governance, and accountability to its residents. That's ultimately what we want to achieve. Should we go down each question? And
Works for me.
Okay. The first question that we came up with was, do you agree with the overall financial recommendations contained in the Division of Local Services report? And which recommendations do you view as most critical for the town to address? Big question.
It's the easiest piece of print.
Have all three of you had a chance to review the report?
Right here.
Okay,
Perfect.
I just got it yesterday.
Everybody gets to recycle the same joke. So I kind of saw this as being a real softball, the easy one to start with. reduce reliance on reserves. And I think that was the first recommendation that was made. Your own home finances, if you get paid $100 a week, you should be spending only $85 or $90 of that, not putting $5 on a credit card and hoping for some reason more money shows up. I think that's a basic premise. I think there is nothing when it comes to percentage collection. I speak from experience. If there's a levy of $10 million, it gets added in, not $9,500,000 or, and I know there's always been conservative estimates on these, but there's no, our reserve should be building year after year, and only after something horrific should we be dipping into those reserves as opposed to ebbing and flowing from them. I was on the finance committee and they had $1 million, I think it was 2001, and that's nothing but a memory. So if you think back 23 years, even if you only put $100,000 a year away, you'd be exponentially that much better. So I think some of the things in the DLS report have some merit. We should be, at one point we should have made the adjustment where we were budgeting up to 90-95% and making sure that you were managing your reserves. When the high winds were happening a couple of days ago, I knew I had enough money personally in the event I needed to call a contractor for a roof repair, as opposed to chasing my tail waiting for an insurance claim check to come in. I think the town should be working on the same way. You should have, and it's a subjective amount. Should it be 5%? Should it be 10%? The MGFOA suggests 2 months, which is 1/6 or about 16 or 17% in reserve. That's not a bad target. So I think one of them, yes, I agree with, and it should have been attainable a long time ago. I don't want to get into the discussion about how Proposition 2.5 is limiting against other priorities.
So, I'm really new to the town of Dudley. I started 18 months ago, Sarah Mondra, town accountant. And when I was onboarding, this audit was going on, and I found the report extremely useful. It was enlightening. I was new, and these were the objectives that the town was going to be focusing on as we move forward. Some of them don't relate to me, some of them do, and low-hanging fruit I was able to knock off quickly. And as I look at the 16 recommendations, I think the most important one, from my view, would be the adoption of formal policies and procedures. And that, because it's an overarching, it points to the other areas and it lays the groundwork down so that we can focus in, making the finance management team. That's one of it. It's a point on here, but it is also one of the policies that DLS suggests that you put in. And if we can put the team together and work and focus our activities and work together to strategically look at the objectives of the town financially. So that's my feeling about the report, and I do use it as my goals when I set my personal goals or professional goals for my review. They're cherry picked off this list. So.
And I agree with both points that Rich and Sarah made. I just went through all of these today. I agree with almost all of them. Like I said, I agree with what Rich said. You have to treat this town like you would treat your own home budget. You don't just not have a savings account and just keep spending and hope next year you're going to get some money in to be able to pay for things that come up. We'll never get ahead that way. And as Rich said, we can only collect 2.5% from the prior year, and we all know that expenses are going up way more than 2.5% every year. The same with Sarah. I agree with her on her points, but I think that we really need policies for everything here. I'm starting to work on policies. I've been here 23 years, and I came into this with no policies in my office. I'm going to be gone in a few years, and the next person that's walking in is not going to have any policies to go by in my office. I think every office should have policies, not just, for a charter or selectmen. I think every office needs to work on policies that pertain to their office. So God forbid something happen and you have to leave, when somebody walks in, you have those policies in place. The weekly receipts and monthly reconciliations, I think that's very important, because if you get I don't do this, but I did go to school for accounting, and I think that you don't want to get the receipts too far behind. If you're going 3 months back, that's a lot harder to reconcile than it is if you're doing it on a weekly and a monthly basis, and I think that's really important to keep on top of that.
And I think we've made significant progress.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
definitely. It's
on
completely,
that.
the last year has been great. It's all caught up now.
Yeah.
And we
At
have the
one point, it
Vadar
was 6
system,
months.
so yeah, I mean, Rich and Sarah worked really hard to do that, and I'm sorry, because a lot of what I'm talking about that's in here, in these 16 recommendations, a lot of these have already been taken care of. There are, like, the reconciliations have been taken care of. We worked on policies, specific policies that were presented to the Board of Selectmen. Was it Monday or the last night?
Yeah.
So we are making
Yeah.
progress. Everything that's in here is being worked on moving forward. So we're taking this serious. We're taking this serious and trying to do all the recommendations that are in here, and I think they're all good recommendations.
I think if we could go to last night's selectmen's meeting, a great deal of what's pointed out in the DLS report has everything to do with the collector's office, starting with Vadar, and the accountant's office having an 18-month lag, as opposed to drawing a clean starting spot and moving. So what Sarah has done as the accountant for the past 18 months has been to sort of unwind all of the previous headache, and I'll be polite summarizing it as such. At the end of the day, I can still produce 2019 records digitally that say, here it is, here are my commitments, here are my payments, here's my outstanding less my credits. So if I can prove it old school, it's telling me there is something in the implementation of that. And if you look, we're not writing things off, we're correcting what didn't flow through Vadar and should have. Because at the end of the day, I'm tight to the original Vadar, from point to Vadar conversion and Vadar to today's conversion.
Just so everybody knows, Vadar is,
Vadar, so take a step back. Prior to the implementation of Vadar, you had Point Software, which was the collector's system. Your assessor would place bills in Point for the collector, and that was receipts and your reconciliation. The abatements went in there, refunds.
Exemptions.
Exactly, and it was only a paper output.
Right, it's the financial management system software. That's what it is.
But it's collector only.
That's right.
It was collector only, and then you were doing the manual import to BMSI, which was the accounting.
Yeah.
oh, so you have two systems.
No,
The
you have-
software
you have
didn't
two
talk to,
systems.
my software didn't talk
Vadar's
to
a
it. yeah.
fully integrated
This is
system.
Vadar,
so,
Vadar will
yeah.
do it all, and they, again, if they're converting to
Right.
everybody on Vadar, that's what, again.
Oh, perfect.
You want everybody on one financial
That makes
management
great
system.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
And then we go back to what the accountant had made mention of last night. Part of this dovetails into the UMA system, which is the chart of accounts.
If you're looking at expenses and what have you, looking at receipts, if you're to look at them in Dudley or in Webster or in the city of Boston, somebody should be able to follow it, for the most part, by a department, a fund code, a department code. Your expenses are starting with 5,700, your receipts are 4,800. So there's some basic frameworks, and part of the implementation could have been a lot better. The whole idea is if you have a good chart of accounts, you're running your reports using Vadar's sort of programming already in there so that you know what things are. A great example of this is going to be, instead of having the police just go to patrolman's salary and you're paying 6 or 8 people out of it, there is a sergeant's salary. There's 4 sergeants. Here it is. You have the ability to go with that specific account number by year so that you're able to proof it out, so that when your accountant goes through and runs the 5-month, 6-month, this is what you have, and it's tighter. The better the detail, you don't want to miss something. It was made for that, but it wasn't set up for that, but we're migrating to do that.
Wonderful.
And the UMass system is the standard, the chart of accounts is basically how the Department of Revenue, the State Department of Revenue lays out, prescribes that each line item should be, the order and the location and the subject matter which it refers to. So that if you look at, again, it shows one town, every town has the exact same chart of accounts, like, salaries, expenses by category, all the way down. So if you look at one town, it's the same as another town. So he says UMass chart of accounts, that's what he's referring to. Sometimes towns kind of improvise a little bit. They might move, let's say, animal control, which sometimes is under the, Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, which I do not recommend. Trust me, it's a bad situation. And some may move it to accountants, or may decide we're gonna have police handle it. And so you might move it around on your own books, but from an accounting standpoint, your chart of accounts, it's recognized in the exact same order as everyone else in the state should be. Am I more or less accurate with that?
Great explanation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Important 2 words, should.
Yeah,
Should be.
well,
Should
should be,
be.
that's right, so anyway, so that's what a chart of accounts is, and again.
Yep.
I like that.
Well, I think you've answered the second question. Do you believe that the DLS financial recommendations are appropriate for the town's current financial position? I get the sense that you think yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Third question, are the DLS financial recommendations achievable within the town's existing governance structure? Or do you think changes would be required to implement them effectively? So is the town set up or poised to make these things happen and make them work?
Well,
Tough
so,
question.
like
Yeah.
the question on the that a change would need to happen
Right.
to convert the elected positions to appointed.
Which is one of the topics that we're tasked with researching.
Yeah, and I do think most of these, with a little bit of work, can be achieved with the structure. When you look strategically at where the town is going, I do think maybe there needs to be some changes in the structure of the
Okay.
town. So, that's just,
Would you be willing to elaborate?
well, I'm gonna just put it on the table, because I went to the Gov't Study meeting, and I was not aware that an elected position, you have to live in the town to hold a position. So Rich does a great job as treasurer, and he's been here 20-something years. I do think that position should be appointed, because God forbid he got hit by a truck or something. It would be really, really hard for the town of Dudley to replace that position. And just looking what is required from the positions that we both hold, the accounting position and the treasurer. It's a very involved position. I think some of you might have the experience. Rick, you do, right? Yeah, Rich. Rich is in Rick's. I'm married to a Rick. But you know, they're very. You need to know the law. You need to study. You need to be professional. You need, and they're very hard to come by. And Massachusetts has its own set of rules that govern these positions too. So I think for succession planning purposes, an appointment for those roles would be more appropriate.
Lisa, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but you're an appointed
Correct.
official.
Mhm.
Was the assessor ever elected in the past?
The board is elected.
The board is elected.
But I don't believe the acting assessor, the principal assessor was. I think they're appointed by the board. I think it's always been like that.
Okay.
I was gonna make a reference back to the lamentations that I heard from one of the assessors actually measuring houses. So a principal assessor was one of those changes that was made along the line.
They would do the recap sheet too, all the building permits, the inspections.
And you need to complete the 101, Assessor's 101 to sign off on these. I took that. Not an assessor, but I took the class. My perspective's a little different, and before Sarah had made her answer, my comment was going to be under the existing structure, and the answer was going to be no. There should be an assistant accountant. You have an accountant, and it's a one-person show. There should be an assistant accountant, and I'll make reference to what's in the DLS report. The August cash is signed, sealed, and delivered, but not processed as of whatever the date they said. So my assistant closed out the collector side, and I had the other side closed out well ahead of the December reference. It was Sarah who all of a sudden is in the position of, now I need to close out all of these things on a state level, and the financial management team went through and said, hey, wait a second, more important that you get the recap and the rate set ahead of that. So I don't know if it was an intentional oversight or what have you, but the idea that the person doing the DLS audit, that information was at hand. The idea that your accountant was overloaded with things and didn't get to it until December, I think is true, but it's.
I believe that was
That
the
was,
case.
that was.
I wasn't able to post cash.
Yep, because you spent a lot of time doing the recap and
Oh, I don't recall that.
the Section A. When.
Sounds like there's a little disagreement here.
Yeah,
Little-
no,
a little
I know I
disagreement.
couldn't post the cash
I'll-
because we communicate when the cash is ready for posting, and
We
it
had
wasn't posted.
And we had a meeting, I have timestamps, that's one of the good things with Vadar. And the idea that it was brought up specifically in the DLS report, something I took note of, made notes on. I think they were myopic. You would hope that the DLS would have gone through and taken a very big picture of things. I think a few of the items that are mentioned almost echo word for word January Selectmen's meeting, maybe 11 months prior to that. So you would have to think that there is some influence or just amazing coincidences. Back to, are these things achievable? There was a great deal of synergy for the majority of my 23 years. So I don't know the call for change. There seems to be some innuendo, but very little, hi, yes, we needed to get the tax rate done for 24, and everything broke down a specific example of things like that. From my end, it's been great progress from Vadar. I was able to get on today, work through some things, and we had those strong reference points saying, yes, remember when we set this up? Okay, and that was building on these things. So it was good, and sort of the investigative work, 5 or 10 minutes into the call, yep, you have things set up. So I guess I'm pretty good as far as being self-taught, and we'll go back to last night's selectmen's meeting. Really, December cash was a very modest reconciliation. And each month, it seems that as the items come up, they have been taken care of. And of course, the deal has been whatever it takes to put an item to bed and never have to revisit it the successive month. Everything has been a success. So it has been moving along very well. I'm happy with how the reconciliations are working. So
Yeah, I think currently we've got it down to a
Exactly.
timely processing
Right.
of the reconciliations, the posting of the cash. Cash is being posted, I'd say, by the third week following month end, and the reconciliations are done just right after that. So,
And thoughts on assistant accountant?
what?
And your thoughts on an assistant accountant?
I do have some help, 16 hours a week. The former accountant comes in, and that's been a blessing because she's got the institutional knowledge.
So that's how
So-
you're managing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
It's
So you
busy.
kind of sort of have an assistant.
Yeah, I do, and you know, I went on vacation a few weeks ago. I had to turn
Oh.
60. So.
Beats the alternative, though, doesn't it?
What?
Beats the alternative.
I know it does, but she was able, you know, to make sure that the warrants were prepared and that the payroll was posted. So,
Okay. All right, good.
so it's working.
Because
It's,
otherwise it would not have, otherwise there wouldn't be anyone in the office.
Right,
Or-
right, and the plan is to hire a full-time, but, you know, we get stuck with the money situation. I mean, the money's gotta come from somewhere.
My memory may be incorrect on this, but wasn't there money appropriated for an assistant town accountant 2 years or so ago?
Yeah, and we used some of that when they hired me, because Deb, the former accountant, stayed on board for a couple of months. And I actually started June 17th, 2024, and that's like your end.
Yeah.
And I'm new to municipal accounting, so very, very different. So Deb retired in July, so there was that 2-week lapse. And then she took some time off, and I got through the audit, and Deb came back a couple days a week in January. So that's what, you know, that money is sitting in the budget.
So that was.
Yeah, and I think I make a little bit more money than Deb made, and that's, you know, I'm a different.
Is that money still budgeted in the town accountant's
It,
budget
it's
for the
less.
assistant?
There is a
You can't
budget,
make
but
it, yeah.
it's not for a full-time position,
Okay.
no.
And
It's,
is it currently contracted, budgeted as contracted services or for actual salary?
I think it's salary line item. I mean, it's a 5-1.
I'm thinking it's pretty close to the 16 hours times the current rate, and maybe a fudge factor of an extra week in there for a vacation or what have you.
Well, I was an intern. I had an intern
Yeah.
over the summer, and that person helped me clean up, talk about the vendor database, which was dumped into the new system. So this
Seems-
individual came in, they took 9,600 vendors and put in a new system, and instead of cleaning it up and then putting it into the new system,
Put it all in.
they dumped it all in.
Who's they?
Well,
Vadar people? Who's they?
IT? or-
I don't know how it
Just curious.
transpired.
I
That's
think-
not how you would
What I
generate-
came-
I think we're pointing out the issue here, when you have lack of manpower and lack
Yes.
of personnel,
Yeah.
you can't get to those best practices, you can't get to
Right.
those things that you know you should do.
Yeah.
Because the time crunch exists.
Mhm.
So I think the implementation of the new Vadar was delayed along the way. I don't think it
Right,
hit the
right.
exact timeline. So that's probably one of the things that had to be sacrificed. Well, we can just import everybody and fix
It's
it
just
later.
like the chart of accounts, it was the
Yeah.
same thing, they dumped the chart of account, instead of ensuring it was UMass compliant
Okay.
and
So
it
you
could
missed an
easily fulfill the reporting
Mhm.
requirements of the state. They took a chart of accounts and dumped it into a new system and then tried to, so. yeah. And it just makes it difficult all the way around.
And I raised my hand in advocacy for the assistant accountant because I'm the treasurer collector, and we had no luck with an assistant treasurer collector. There is an assistant treasurer who is clerk to the assistant accountant, and there is an assistant, excuse me, one more time. Assistant treasurer who is clerk to the assistant collector. The assistant collector is clerk to the assistant treasurer. So that when the assistant collector goes through and closes out the month, I have the ability to look at something that I haven't touched, so that when I'm reconciling to a bank statement, I'm not looking at my own work, I'm auditing somebody else's. And when we have somebody go on vacation, instead of me hopping in and doing the billing or health insurance or anything like that, I have someone else go through and do that with my part-timer filling in for either assistant, so that, wait a second, we needed to update A, B, and C, and it's a different set of eyes on each thing.
So you have cross-training.
Cross-training, but it's, how do things get fixed?
Yeah.
They either need to break or they need a new set of eyes to go on them, so.
That's smart. I like that.
I also think that it was really tough to get someone up and running, both treasurer and collector. You need to be one or the other. At one point, we'll turn things around and the assistant treasurer will become the assistant collector so that they can get to that nth level of detail, so that things don't. It frees up time for me to do the other things.
Terrific segue. Is communication and collaboration between town offices and officials sufficient?
Nebulous standard, isn't it?
There's room for improvement.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what regard or what area?
Well, we have department head meetings that we started up so that we could all be communicating, but we can't all make them. I haven't been able to make like the last 4. I don't think we had one in a long time.
We
A
had
department
one-
head meeting.
Well, we did have one about the budget.
We did, yeah. It was nice because everybody knew what each department was doing. I mean, simple things like, okay, the dump stickers are gonna be sold now. Well, I get phone calls, are they for sale? When do they go on sale? Where do I get it? I'm an assessor. I don't know what the recycling rules are. So we'd sit in this meeting and everybody would say, this is what's going on in our office. So that was one way of bettering the communication. But I also think there can be better communication that if we're all a team and something in my office affects Rich or Sarah or John or Olivia or whoever, then I feel as though I need to make a phone call or put an email out there and say, hey, this is what's going on. This might be coming down the pike. What are your opinions on this? And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you just find out when it's too late, or you find out just later on and it's like, well, I really should have known that.
And we have made a concerted effort with the
Oh,
finance management team, because
Yeah, the
that's
finance-
been meeting pretty frequently.
Yeah,
I mean,
almost every week, and I've been here 23 years like Rich, and I've never been on the finance board. This is the first year because of the recommendations from the DOR. So I know we are making improvements, the finance team, and we're communicating. I'm not talking just about the finance team. I'm talking about everybody, and it's not just in town hall. I mean, it can be fire, it can be police, I think there can be better communication.
I think we asked you three to be here because I think there's an, you know, the assessor, then it becomes a collectible and then it's accounted for. But Sarah, you work with all the departments.
Right.
You're dealing with the police, anything in the budget really is part of your purview,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, but
So
my
understanding.
perspective on communications, definitely room for improvement across the board.
Mhm.
And, you know, it takes time.
But there has been improvement.
Yeah, I've
There
noticed.
has been improvement.
I've noticed improvement
Yeah.
since,
Even since you started.
since I started.
Okay.
And it's breaking down barriers.
Who
It's-
facilitates those meetings?
Good question.
The finance meetings?
No,
Yeah,
just
me.
the department head meetings.
Oh, department
Did
head.
just
Well,
the
we have
department
somebody-
heads just show
we ha-
up and
Well,
they
we have
just
the
chit
department
chat?
head meeting, and John's there, the town administrator's there, and before the meeting ends, somebody's chosen to spearhead the next one.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
And then we
Good.
pick a time, it was like it was
It
like
was once a
like a
month. It
second,
was
last
supposed to be.
Tuesday of the month or something like that, so it was the same week and day of every month, and then whoever was chosen would spearhead it,
Okay. All right, so there is,
so that we'd always know a month
Coordination.
ahead of time.
Mhm.
and when you say department, just from a layman's, that could be the police department, all the department heads,
Police,
right?
fire, library.
Okay, they-
Yeah, he
they're-
looked down
they're
our
there.
budget. It's
Okay.
the, you know.
Somebody takes attendance, is it kind of
No,
formal in that
It's
fashion?
not real formal, I mean, we have an agenda
Mhm.
that we
And
go
the
by
notes.
with each one, and notes, and then somebody does the minutes afterwards, so if I couldn't make it, once the minutes are done, I can at least look over the minutes and see what was discussed
Mhm.
and catch up.
Okay,
Um,
yep.
It's not it's pretty laid back and everything, but I always thought they were really good.
Okay. And you just started them now?
No, it's been a few years now,
Okay.
but it wasn't consistent
They
for a
ebb and
while.
flow. I think
Yeah.
with the cycle of the annual cycle, people just get really busy at this time of year.
Yeah.
People are really busy.
Tough in budget season, maybe.
Yes.
And then
exactly.
somebody will pipe up like me and go, hey, are we gonna start these again? Because it's been, a long time since we haven't had one. Didn't we go, we went, I think, almost like a year, didn't we? Without any department head meetings, and things were there was like absolutely no communication as far as I was concerned. And that's when I had suggested to John, can we start these department head meetings up again? And he did.
Who facilitates, I'm sorry, I don't want to.
No, if you had a thought?
No, I was just going to ask who facilitates the finance team
John, right?
meeting.
It's John and
John.
I do the
Yeah,
agendas.
okay. That's
So
Yeah.
typical.
that was going to be my comment. The every other week financial team meeting was mediocre at best. When it was, I asked, can we do this every week and keep it to a single hour to prioritize things? And that's only been
It's never been an
recently.
hour.
Hold on. At the end of the day, the plan is.
Always longer.
Here are the 10 items for the 1 hour discussion, and I'm sure everybody understands that there is always going to be, and just 1 or 2 more items, as opposed to going off on a diatribe about this or about that. But every week you were doing things and having an action item to return back to, saying, yes, we need to make sure that we had a problem flushing hydrants, or whatever the issue was. You at least had, next Tuesday, we know that we're going to have this again. Okay, what else is on the calendar?
And it's still fresh in your mind, as opposed to doing once a month or every 3 weeks. What you discussed the week before is always fresh on your mind, and you remember what you discussed and what you came up with. If you
And
go a
there's
month,
a lot
it's
of
too much.
activity in
Yeah.
the group.
The agenda's not short, and if it is short, it's long discussions,
Mhm.
so.
But it-
All right, thank you. Now, this next one, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Because the
Oh,
next one is, how could a charter or special act changing the current form of town government help clarify authority, accountability, and continuity? Maybe you
You want me to
could,
answer the question? or
You know,
you-
well, no, no.
Answer me the question?
just where Dudley is now versus where it could be with a charter or a special act. And then I think set that as the context for, does authority, accountability, and continuity change?
like a comment from me first?
Yes, please.
I guess I look at, and I go back to your first comment, Sarah, about policies, financial policies. Well, who makes financial policies for the town? Who does that?
Is that what we're doing?
Who would do that?
We're doing it. There's-
Yeah.
Yeah. well,
So
The
this-
finance management team,
Alright.
and then it would go to the board of
All right,
selectmen.
well, again, so who ultimately promulgates policies and procedures, financial policies?
Sounds
There's-
like,
There's your answer.
there's your answer, yes.
You can't have all these policies, and you can't have policies that you can't ensure are complied with if you don't have one authority
Okay.
creating these policies. So that's why I'm saying, who is, in my history, your Board of Selectmen promulgates policies.
Mhm.
And then the organization ensures that those policies are carried out, you know, or else. So that's really kind of fundamentally my question. My point is that, in some fashion, you know, whether it's through an act or a charter, there's ways to bring that together. But again, your policies are important. I mean, ask any, you know, bond rating agency.
Mhm.
You know, you need to have them, they need to have certain elements. But somebody at some level of the organization should be the authority in setting those, and I don't know who else it could be other than a Board of Selectmen.
Right. And-
Okay, that was my question. So
Yeah.
when I worked for the town of Oxford, they had a charter, so, and the town manager, so it was completely different from here.
Mhm.
So if you don't have a charter and you have a town administrator, are you saying that it's the Board of Selectmen that oversee the policies and make sure they're followed?
Well, in my history, both the town administrator and town manager, but actually the town administrator charter in Webster is a lot stronger than the town manager in Abington. And in many ways, the charter, the special act in Carver was stronger than the town manager act, so. But that person in that role is usually the person that would recommend policies to the selectmen. The selectmen would vote these policies, and then whether it's the town manager or the town administrator would be the one who's making sure these get done, administering these policies, so.
Isn't that kind of what we're doing now?
Yes.
We're working on policies together with the town administrator who presents them to the Board of Selectmen.
Right, and then what?
Vote on it.
And then they vote on to approve the policies or not.
Well, and then what?
So you're asking who oversees to make sure that the policies are being followed?
Yes.
Yes.
Would be.
I would think the Board of Selectmen, or John,
Yeah,
reporting
some
back to the Board of
controls.
Selectmen,
Okay.
because he oversees the day-to-day
Mhm.
functioning, so.
The treasurer collector's office has put forward a couple of policies. The idea of a health insurance policy manual comes from the health insurance, I'm the insurance administrator. So at one point, the compliance people gave me a tap on the shoulder and said, we need to outline a few things. We need to make sure that the town's practices align with the sections of Mass General Law that have been accepted, whatever is in your current contracts, so on and so forth, get memorialized. The board went through and approved them, and I think the policy manual has the ability to be updated. And I think it's mutual consent. The idea, and I referred to the town administrator prior to the current one, you're bringing things to the table which will stand on their own merits. It's the idea that this is best for the town. The third party suggesting whatever changes, input from town council, me, the person who's operating these things, and, you know, it's against the 5-member Board of Selectmen that say, yes, this is how we should do it.
And what if it doesn't get done that way? Then what? I mean, that's fundamentally the question,
Mhm.
is if things don't get done, policies and procedures, then what? What does the board do?
Well, this should be made a priority.
But, okay.
But
That's not-
are there any policies that exist today that people can read?
It's investment policy and the health insurance. Policy.
In a draft, are they, you wrote those, but are they been approved, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 policies for the whole town written.
I'm speaking that came from.
drafted.
Well,
Hey, they gotta get drafted before they get approved, so that's.
Yeah, I'm just putting it in context, right? I mean, we have a bevy of a list of policies here, and we're at 2.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'll just pick one, like revenue turnover, okay? Revenue turnover from all your departments. So you put a policy in place, the selectmen vote to put a policy in place. People aren't following the policy, whether it's you, or the police chief, or the fire chief. Who does anything about that?
Well,
Who enforces a policy? That's my question.
There isn't a policy.
Yeah, I mean, what good is a
So
policy?
if you don't have a policy, you don't have an authority
right,
to enforce the policy.
There's nothing to measure people up to, or
Yes.
hold them accountable to.
So what would you
That's written
suggest?
down.
What would you
Well-
suggest how it should be handled? Are you saying charter?
Well, that's
No,
what we're
I'm
figuring
not
it out.
saying
Yeah.
anything specific. I'm thinking, what happens if you have policies? Who promulgates them? And once they're promulgated, does anybody have the authority to enforce them? Because if you don't, what's good's policy? I mean, it's simple as that.
One of the questions is the basic structure
Mm-hmm.
and what it allows someone to do or not do in terms of enforcing
Yeah.
policies or shaping things.
Let me ask you this then. With that line of thinking, let's just say that the town administrator is given the authority to oversee department policies. Yet, we have people here, which is a great example, where we have the accountant who is an appointed, the assessor who's appointed by a separate board, and then our treasurer that's elected. So, does that one person sitting in the administrator's chair have the authority to oversee all of these others
Hmm.
that do not report directly to that office?
That's a good question. Because I answer to my board.
Right.
Right.
I have a good relationship with John, and I will confer with him, and I will keep him updated.
Well, that's you now.
But you don't necessarily
But,
need
you know,
to.
things
When I
change.
don't need to,
Right.
but I'm a big on communication and people being aware of what's going
I
on.
mean, this is a great example of how convoluted,
The structure is-
Fragmented.
Yeah.
fragmented our government is.
Yeah. Can I give you another example of that? And it's nothing financial, but you have some towns where you have a building commissioner who, by statute, works directly to the appointing authority. You might have a conservation commission and a commission that might hire its own staff. Well, they have a whole body of regulation they administer. You have the same thing with a board of health, when you have a structure like this, and they hire somebody, and that, they have another entire body of regulation that they have to administer. Zoning, same thing. So you have all these different, to have policies that affect all of these people who work for different authorities with nothing bringing them together, you can have chaos.
And here
You
lies
can have
our-
chaos. I'm not saying you do, but, to the extent that the performance of the agency is based upon people's willingness to get along, can be
Right.
difficult.
Exactly.
That can be difficult, okay?
And I think that's kind of the theme that I'm sensing here from DPW, water and sewer, all cooperating, but with nothing formal. With this working out well, but again, absent the couple of findings in the DLS report, you know, the accounting and the treasury and all that stuff has worked reasonably well. You know, the accountant's position, yeah, you know, in today's world, the office probably does need 2 people. 30 years ago, it was done part-time, you know, on BMSI software, and the data files were shared with the collector at the time, the treasurer at the time. So I think one of the things that we were established for is to look at all of the good things that we currently do and try to come up with the right language to reflect it and codify it, as opposed to relying on best practices, trying to rely on getting lucky that we have somebody in town that's qualified to be a treasurer and do the job well, you know, and you know, a DPW that, you know, cooperates, but because the people there cooperate, not necessarily because that's the way it should be. And Rich, even at the last meeting, you had mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm paraphrasing you correctly, when you said in an ideal world, the treasurer-collector position would be an appointed position as opposed to elected. What's the barrier that makes the current situation not an ideal world?
Show you the hole in my back. This place is predatory. They tried to recall me in 2004. The myopic view of the DLS report, the idea that the fall town meeting in 2020 had a question to make this position appointed. I didn't get the right time of day on even the cursory visit to an FAA review on it. Nothing. Made the offer to sit down to speak with whomever would take the time. It's not a level playing field. I'm here to do a good job. There are other barriers to me being appointed. I've said this back to 2004. Upon my exit, I will absolutely make sure that there will be a person there. I was appointed for 6 months. I took the leap of faith. I took the drug test. I made the application on bond paper and went through the hiring process to demonstrate my abilities to do so. You had 3 people running for town clerk. You had a 4th who took papers out, who's currently a selectman, who wanted the position as well, but never turned the papers in. If ever there was a situation where something was subjective as opposed to objective, I think this is the case. If you tell me that this is a reset on things, and it is crafted, like you said, the ideal, the 352nd municipality, absolutely I'd stand behind it. The current situation is difficult to navigate. If this position weren't elected, I don't know as if I'd still be here, and it wouldn't be based on merit.
Yeah, and that's, unfortunately, that's not what this is supposed to be about, and I'm sorry if you feel that way, but I don't know the dynamics here the way you do.
Excuse me, I think
Yeah.
that, I think there are 101 factors. It's not paranoia. I don't put the I don't put the aluminum foil over my head at night to make sure of these things.
Well, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
Exactly.
I've been told that a long time.
I still have clips from the Patriot where the commentary has gone. I'm the person who believe does a good job. I do take criticism if there's a chance for improvement. I look in the mirror when I shave and say, let's see what we can do. I'd refer to the December reconciliation of cash. I'd refer to doing the bills with the assessor. I make time because this is a priority. I've been here for all of the right reasons, but there still seems to be some static from a very small group. I'll smile and say, I had to say no to be on the Mass Collector Treasurers Association Exam Review Committee. I said no in the email and they gave me the telephone call. Every time I come up for re-election, I want to be able to to point to an extra feather in the hat because the public trust had been placed on me. And I think that goes from my predecessor pointing her finger at me saying, listen, you're here for the right reasons. Please don't let me down. And that, it's well beyond that time. I think I've demonstrated things.
If I-
So the,
Sounds like
Go
a
ahead.
relationship problem, not more than anything else, and, I think the reading between the line is pretty easy here, okay? And, sounds like another conversation for another day, to be honest.
yes.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. I was like gonna say, if I may, obviously we have to be objective, but
Agreed.
and we kind of talked about this in the last meeting. When we write our report, have to be objective, but we talked about how we're not going to be writing how it's going to be written in the law, right? And there was a spot where I forget what the lady's name was, but she said that they could write after you guys retire or after
I think that was me.
sorry.
Thanks.
Um,
Thanks, I haven't called
It
once.
doesn't have to be immediate or whatever, so obviously you can make your own case on that, but I don't know what anyone else's opinion, but yeah.
We're here to evaluate the system, right? The finance system. That's what we're talking about. It sounds like we have a system. I mean, we're probably spending more than we're taking in, right? That's kind of the, how do we fix that? Is it a systemic issue or is it a personnel issue? I don't know, right?
So you've circled back to the first piece where a $30 million budget has $30 million in revenue and a whisper thin margin on those things. I'd love to discuss that at great length. I think there is some merit to going through and revisiting how things are done. I think setting it up as a
Yeah.
charter is
Yeah.
a different conversation.
Exactly.
I think there needs to be more public input. Unfortunately, I was on the finance committee when there were a dozen people on it. Now, my goodness, they could drive here in a single vehicle. It's not as strong as it once was, and I want to say the framework was a little different.
I mean, that's the elephant in the room, right? At the end of the day, I mean, we're spending more than we're taking in. What is the issue? Right? What is the issue in this town for that situation? I think that's what the citizens want to know,
Right.
right? I mean,
That would dovetail with the call for the audit review committee, which I don't necessarily think translates directly to the DLS review. I think the audit review committee, as I understand an audit review committee to work, would be this group right here to make sure that you have a capable CPA firm and year one's audit return findings are addressed for the next year's audit, and there's some continuity outside of daily operations. The really big picture things, the idea that you're going through and your recycling center is losing money, and the auditors brought it up. That would be something that you would want to make sure that was addressed prior to the end of the next year. The idea that nothing would have been slept on. That's how I'm viewing it.
I would think that you wouldn't need an auditor to come in and tell you you're losing money. I would think it's pretty simple. Revenue in versus expenses, we're talking about a landfill.
Hyperbolic
I'm
example.
sure the town accountant would pretty much be able to say, we're spending more money than to bring it in, because you're gonna tell her how much revenue she's gonna post. So, again, you could pretty much go right down the line and say, we shouldn't need a third party to tell us we're spending more than we're bringing in. It doesn't matter what it is. So, I have a hard time thinking that you don't have the talent here to figure out if you're bringing in more money or less money than you're spending. So,
Well, wasn't that
No, you know-
requested at
Just
the
my
meeting?
opinion.
They know
That's
that.
my
It
opinion.
was.
Yeah, that was brought up at town meeting, that we aren't doing things right and that they all wanted us audited. And not,
okay.
and that's why I think when we took the initiative to
I wasn't aware.
have the DOR audit us,
Right.
because the taxpayers were upset. They don't like our auditor, they think, what do they call it? That
A
they
rubber stamp.
They rubber stamp us every year.
Okay.
But in order, I believe, to get an auditor, what was it, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to have, who was it, told me it was like
Oh,
$200,000.
the question of a forensic audit.
Yeah,
And I think if you were,
Oh, not the annual audit.
not the annual
Okay.
audit.
Special audit.
I'm sorry.
I
I wasn't
think
aware yet.
yeah.
through the requests, think of a municipality, think of Boston, think of Cambridge. They have all of the payments up. So what did the police department pay in December for 2025 for fuel costs? Publicly listing out what the dollars are going for, with the implied mistrust that maybe we should be spending our dollars more wisely, as opposed to maybe the message is not getting out clearer that the town of Dudley is still buying gasoline. They're buying it at the discount of what, 10% or 5% through the WEX card. So the idea that dollars are being well spent, as opposed to they're wasting gasoline. So, long way around the idea that money is being spent, here is where it goes, and there's no real hidden agenda other than the innuendo that it could have been spent better.
And an independent audit that they wanted to have would have cost a lot of money that the town doesn't have to do it to satisfy the taxpayers. So you'd be putting money into something that, into a town that's already struggling, where we could be using money for something like that towards more productive
Yeah, I see,
items.
I've been here 10 years, and it seems like in the last 5 years, it's become more and more of a financial issue. Maybe I'm misinterpreting or incorrect. It just seems to be, COVID came, I get it, but it just seems like this is a snowballing effect
Well, I think,
of financial constraint in the town, and, obviously, we're here to try to fix it, right?
yeah. I don't know
Well,
how much you can fix the problem. I mean, it's pretty systemic throughout.
Can I offer a little
Commonwealth.
insight here?
You just, please,
I'm sorry.
please, I just,
Oh, yeah, when you have inflation, 8%, and you're limited to what you can tax and raise, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room. I mean, are any communities
We
thriving?
already start behind the 8 ball,
Right.
because I say to taxpayers that come in and they complain about their taxes, I said, if you got a 2.5% cost of living raise, would that cover what the economy's doing and the increase in your bills? They're like, no way. And I said, well, that's what 2.5% is. We cannot generate more than 2.5% in revenues to the prior year, and we're a business, so everything is more expensive, especially in this economy. So how are we supposed to catch up?
you can't
And get
increase your
ahead.
income more than 2.5%, is that what you're saying?
So we can't take in more than 2.5% in revenues
More.
from the prior year.
Increase to prior year.
Right, so though it's limited.
No matter if you came up
Just
with a
for
great
real-
idea to generate
Just for real
income.
estate taxes.
Which
Just
Joe,
for-
which accounts for what percentage of the budget?
Most,
Gotta be high.
it's gotta be
No, I
most.
think the tax levy was
Is
around
that
11 million or
it
so.
says 60-something
I don't know.
percent, the real
I think
estate?
it's about, yeah, it's about 11
So
million for
it's
the
in the
levy.
11
It's
million range.
18
Yeah,
million.
Are you guys up to a $30 million?
We're at
spending budget?
we're at a $30 million budget, so 2.5% of $11 million plus your new growth. You smile. Webster is not Dudley,
The
and
tech
it's not.
Webster probably
Commonwealth's
gets a
not-
lot of new growth, right? No?
we don't.
But you have the potential for new growth. You have 290, and that's the market difference between Webster and
We
Dudley.
have, I'm
Right.
sorry.
395.
395, sorry, I'm going
Well, I'm problem is,
It's
our
some
problem is we don't have
geography.
land.
I'm sorry?
Our problem is we don't have
They're
land.
like
What?
splitting
That's
land
our
and then
problem.
putting these tiny
That's our
houses
problem.
slammed on top of each other.
And that's part of the struggles I think
Yeah.
that Dudley faces as well. There's not a lot, there's maybe some buildable lands.
We have a lot of farmland in town. We have 65 farms. Each farm has multiple parcels
And that's
of
all-
land.
And that's all protected.
And that's all protected, they get a huge discount in their taxes.
You have to have a tremendous amount of growth.
I mean, the
generate
zoning regulations are
real
so
revenue.
strict in Dudley.
Yeah, and we don't. I mean,
And,
this year
you
was a
know,
whopping year of
Can I offer my
$243,000.
cynical, and this is, I've been saying this for years, and this is, I've said for years that there's nobody more cynical about state and federal government than those of us who work in local government. So you have Proposition 2.5, so the levy can only have 2.5. But yeah, you have laws that tell us how we have to spend our money, that tell you how you have to do your job, tell you how you have to do your job. They tell us who's eligible for health insurance. They tell us we can't change, you can't have plan design change. When you have health insurance going up crazy amounts and we can't make changes to that. So you have 14% health insurance, you know, you have the state telling you, again, you how to do your job.
Fund
You-
your
you-
pension.
And you have
Yeah,
a regional
you-
school system, God bless you. But they
But
tell
then
you.
that trickles down from the taxpayers,
But they tell you you can only
blaming
raise this
us.
money, but they're telling you you have to spend this, but you could only raise this, so, and this, when this goes on and on and on and on, so like I said,
You never get ahead.
no,
You
and
never
this-
break even.
This is why I'm cynical about, you know, the state's laws should be consistent. Otherwise, we are what we are now, we're dependent upon the state to give us money to pay the bills that they make us pay.
Well, I mean, that really is the crux of our problem. The DLS report indicates stop living off of cash reserves. But nobody
We
illustrates
don't have
how
a-
to do
How
that.
do you, right,
Yeah.
how do you
And we
make more
can't.
money to reserve
That's
more
the-
money so that you
We
don't
have
have
not
to
been
dip
able
into it?
I think we understand that's the problem,
Yeah.
but how do you,
It's a systemic
I only
problem.
average about $175,000 a year in new growth. I've had more in the last couple of years because we're conducting cyclical inspections and we're picking things up. But when you're talking about the budget that we have in our real estate revenues, what is $200,000?
Yeah.
Nothing. What's that gonna help?
And but to your
Nothing.
point too, Brian, you know, zoning,
It's
zoning
the
is
only.
huge.
it's-
Zoning is huge, try to, you
No,
know.
I mean, I just from personal experience.
Yeah,
I mean, the zoning, I mean, if the land doesn't meet very specific zoning
Mhm.
requirements, you can't do anything with it.
yeah.
It just sits there. And for me, I mean, the town wanting to have an agricultural tax base versus an actual single-family home or a company that's actually making a nice bump to the tax base, that is how the town should start thinking about growth, freeing up the zoning to let growth happen in a strategic way. I'm not saying, you know,
Yeah.
you go in and start ripping up agricultural land, but you gotta be smart about it.
Well, a lot of the
These
farmers-
zonings and these overlay districts, you know, they were put on after the fact, after everything happened. There wasn't a strategic build-out plan for increasing industry, you know, to attract industry.
Well, with farmland, it's not zoning, it's a state chapter
Well, that too,
that they qualify by, but many of them entered into the Agricultural Preservation Restriction Act, where the government came in and they paid the farmer a set amount of money, and they have huge restrictions on it. For the lifetime of the property, it can never be built upon, unless you're putting a barn, a silo, anything to do with farming, you can never build upon it, ever. It would take an act of legislature to go through to do that, and we have multiple acres here that's there,
Yeah.
so even if the farmer sold it, you can't do anything with it.
Right, right.
and if I recall, there's a provision that requires payment of back taxes. or something
believe me,
like that.
If they pull out,
61A.
yeah, we
Struggle
had
to
some
do
farmers
anything.
pull out because they wanted to, they needed money, so they pulled out 2 acres to somebody to build a house on the property. So they would have to pay back that percentage of rollback taxes 5 prior years, depending on when they entered into the chapter land. There may or may not be interest involved as well. And there's a lien put on every property for every farmer that's in town to guarantee us to get our rollback taxes.
I mean, that's the only way, I mean, you have very few levers to increase your revenue, right? Very few. So
And-
the town should be
And
talking about
expenses
those few and figuring out how how to resolve them.
And the town just got a grant to us to get a strategic plan, some assistance on that too, so.
Oh, that's
you know,
good.
we're cognizant.
They're working on it then.
Yeah. it has-
Was,
work
wasn't
has
that
to
a second version of the community development block grant? So that neighborhoods with opportunity could keep its original residents as opposed to an investor from out of town buying the 2 or 3 family and not, and you losing that neighborhood to just being, absentee landlords.
Right.
So there is some value to the old neighborhood in the best sense. But agreed, there's some opportunity would be good.
So I do know, in the past, the Economic Development Committee in town has looked at different things, the Stephen Linden's Mill, as a result of that. I think there was some talk about some potential development in back of the courthouse. But again, you're far away from highway, so it makes it a little more challenging. And I just wanted to circle back to the whole revenue piece. So 1/3 of our revenues can go up 2.5%, barring any overrides. But everything else is dependent on kind of the business climate, so motor vehicle excise in a good time where people are buying new cars and getting free, cheap financing and all of that, well, those revenues can increase pretty substantially, pretty quickly. But in today's climate, in today's economic circumstances, I'm not sure how many people are going out and buying those new cars.
$80,000
in town.
a whack.
Yeah.
So, while 1/3 is guaranteed to go up 2.5%, the rest may or may not. And that's really the challenge. Your expense budget wants to grow at 5, 6, 7, 8%, and your revenue budget is constrained to around probably 2.5% overall on a good year.
Right, and again,
That's
because
right.
the state's telling you what you need to do in collective bargaining.
Right.
Your
That
choice,
too.
the state's telling you how to deal with the major benefits that you pay, and as we know, that's a massive part of any expense, so again, my cynical, after many years, that you can't have the state telling you this, and that you can only do this.
It's wonderful that they give you the ability to do plan design changes, but you have to give away, 50% of whatever you save?
Pretty much, yeah.
25. I didn't want to overstate.
That was yesterday's speaking.
That was about
And-
30, that was about 35%.
When
so.
we get to excise, it's at the House right now, part of the governor's budget is to not enforce the mark for unpaid excise. And that's the only real teeth you have. If you as a resident of Dudley decide not to pay taxes, the town can perfect the lien placed by the assessor, and we become a priority for payment. If you don't pay your excise bill, you get marked for non-renewal. There is something at the House right now as part of the governor's budget that will eliminate that. So the collector of taxes has the ability to go through and mark your license for non-renewal. That's how you get people to pay bills. If you remove that, and there's absolutely no reason for you to pay anything other than, just human nature being good to your, as part of the Commonwealth. But it's a step in the other direction. A year and a half ago, we were having our discussion about equity theft, Hennepin County in Minnesota. Somebody had lost a condo, and the argument was the municipality had retained the excess equity. Right now in Massachusetts, if there is a foreclosure, there is a settling up period where it used to be a giant gain for the town. In the event a house was lost at land court and it was sold, the town would be getting dollars back, as opposed to right now, it almost seems there's a hesitance for the land court to foreclose on something, given.
Yeah, what he's referring to is up until really the last 3 years, if you you had a piece of property that was in arrears, let's say it's $100,000 piece of property, and there were $25,000 in arrears, and you went through the process and you took the property, well, as your asset, you could sell it for whatever you can get. Now, you can't do that. Now, you have to, that balance, they owe 250,000? Well, you get your 250,000, but you don't, the rest of it you don't get anymore.
Mhm.
That goes back to the previous owner. So it used to be, a cash cow isn't the right way to say it, but when you okay, maybe.
Yeah.
It was an opportunity.
All right, maybe. When you foreclosed on property and you got the full asset of that, now you only foreclose, you only get the amount of the asset that they were outstanding. Now, granted, it kind of sounds fair, doesn't it? But on the other hand, I think, like Rich says, it was a revenue source that,
And it used to be 16% interest, now it's only 8%. And there's a local option to make it less. The whole idea being, this is your home, you would have the ability to go through and get some sort of loan on it, because clearly it was easier to get a loan for 5%, even 10%, as opposed to the 16 that the town was collecting, and it all went under the umbrella of Proposition 2.5. They made sure that if your taxes could only go up a little bit, you were going to make sure that you collected everything with a priority lien, and now it seems to go the other way. Same thing with tax deferrals. There's more call for them, and it's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is, think of you're the last fisherman alive, living in the center of Nantucket. Clearly, the home you grew up in is worth a lot more than what your parents paid for it. You likely couldn't afford the taxes, let alone the upkeep on it. So,
This is very great. I think I can summarize one last point, just as a question. We have a lot of here that surrounding boards, and Lisa, you work for a board,
Mhm.
and I guess probably you all have interactions with different boards, and I think they're almost all elected. And how do you think the elected boards that the town has, do you think they have the best financial interests of the town in mind when they're working on all of their individual problems or issues and how they affect the town? Do you have any insight on that?
I think it depends on the board.
Okay.
My board is very cooperative, they're very knowledgeable, but I
They're
know.
very qualified people.
They're very, very qualified. I think Conrad's been on my board for over 40 years. Joanne's not far behind. They're professional real estate agents, so my meetings go very quickly, because you don't have somebody that's not educated in real estate trying to come up with answers to real estate that they don't know really what they're talking about.
Mhm.
So my board's excellent, but I know there are some boards where unfortunately
It's personal interest.
there's personal interest on getting on the board, and then people butt heads because some people don't want to be logical or fair or have the best interest of the town when they're on those boards, and it makes it difficult. And unfortunately, that's what you get when you have an elected board. I mean, anybody can get elected in, depending on what board it is. Some of them are just a popularity contest, how many people can you back you up to get elected so you can get on the agenda. Now, I'm not saying that's all boards, but it does happen. And some people aren't knowledgeable on budgets and what's being spent. If it's not brought up and they're not educated on it, they don't know.
I believe there should be more public input. Back to the Finance Committee having a handful of people, Capital Improvement having a handful of people. You'd love to see a dozen people picked from all walks of life, with a little bit of a primer before they sat down.
FAA and Capital Improvement, those are appointed boards?
They are,
Fully appointed, right?
it hasn't been full in.
Well, no. Everyone is, all the open seats would be appointed.
no elected.
Correct.
There are no elected
Cor-
people.
Correct, But the appointments come from I have 2 people, and I smile because my 2 appointments were filled. We had another person come on, and that's where the communication starts. Who had an open one? And I smile and say, I have someone I would like you to take a look at, and, almost on my recommendation, this is a warm lead, if you've ever done sales, the idea that this is a shining star that needs a little bit of nurturing to make it better. It's always frustrating when you sit there at the town meeting and start counting out 58 people. You'd love to see, we're gonna have a small delay because we need to fit the additional 50 or 100 people. You want the engagement, because, for all of the right reasons, and not to be the pitchfork and torches saying, listen, this isn't gonna happen anymore. It's more people advocating for the right things because they know how the school budget works, or what's necessary to run the right fire department. Little things like that. Too easy for people to sit at home and make comments.
So I'm gonna, I'm just a, citizen of the town. I joined this committee to try to learn like how things happen. So I'm still wondering how things happen. So if you were to tell somebody like myself to say, we have a project in town, I have an interest for this project, and I need the town to spend money on it, what happens? What's the decision-making process for that project to get approved, to get spent? What is the process that project has to go through in town? How do I get the answer to that?
I don't know enough about
Like
the
a water project? You want to know?
Yeah,
Eagle Drive, the water project.
it could be, I don't know, the fire department,
Yep.
as an example. How did the fire department come to be? The new fire department?
The building.
capital project?
Yeah,
Well, I think the idea was brought forward. Wasn't there a ballot vote to determine whether or not?
but how did it even, before it gets there, how does it go?
Did it start with the fire chief, I would think, saying that the building
Yeah,
needed
I
to
can
be?
Is it adequate or?
I can speak on that a
Yeah.
little bit.
I'm just using that as an example, but
Yeah.
as like a citizen in town, you see this, we're having financial constraints. You see this big, beautiful fire station, it doesn't add up, right? So they start asking questions, right? That's a good example. How does that go through the process in town? Just from a layman's, perspective, how does a project like that get to the end?
How does it start, or how does it?
Yeah, how does it start? How does it-
About a capital budget.
Rise between, why is it fire and not police and not highway, or water and,
Yeah,
that's a big discussion as far as politics goes. I want
Well,
to
that's it. Is it politics or is it policy, or how does somebody get that kind of, okay, some of it was financed and supported at the state level, I get that, but the town had to kick in on it. So, but how does the decision-making process go? Who has the authority to push something like that through?
The
The
taxpayers.
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 Well,
The taxpayers vote on
Can I
it.
just speak on
Yeah.
that briefly? And
yeah, I know, but it's
And I
people
may
that
not
should,
have all of the minute details specific to the fire station project, but essentially what will happen is whoever is the department head looks at long-term, will give a 1, 3, 5, sometimes longer than that capital outlay. With the firehouse, there was a study done back in the early 2000s or something like that, and it looked at the facility and it was inadequate back then. It was built out for a very low dollar at the time it was put together, and it was good enough. It was a good enough project. So a couple of generations later, they do a follow-up study recommended by the chief of the department. They look at the facility to see what the needs are of the community. And when communities build out municipal projects, it's not for today. We've done that several times in this community. The original firehouse was a good enough project, good enough for today. The original town hall and police station was in a old school facility, and it was really one of these turn of last century. So they just converted it. When that became outdated, which was probably the day they moved in, they looked at building a new facility, new town hall and police station. And that, again, in turn, was a good enough project, good enough for today. Years later, the town realizes that a good enough project just isn't good enough. So the fire station has this committee put together, and they look at the specific needs on an outlay of 50 years, not just for today. The old town hall police station, when that was recognized as being insufficient, this current building was the elementary school. When the school system expanded and rebuilt existing facilities, this building became available. So instead of just looking at a town hall police station that was good enough for today, they made the investment to build out a facility good for the next 50 years. So really the department head will look at the needs of whether it be staffing, whether it be equipment, whether it be a facility or whatever, just come up with something. What am I going to need to operate properly for the next year, 3 years, 5 years, but in a facility? You know, this is a generation out, if not 2 generations out. So now the needs of the firehouse was recognized on what is not needed today, but what will be needed in 50 years. The department head, chief of the department, goes to the town administrator, and through the town administrator into the board of selectmen, offering recommendation of how this project should proceed. That goes on to a ballot for financial. I'm sorry, does it go to town meeting first?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So it goes to town meeting after all these costs are calculated. And if the town meeting says no, then that's the end of the project. If the town meeting approves, then it goes to a ballot.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the taxpayers have several opportunities for review and for yea or nay.
I would suggest even going back in the process, you know, a department head doesn't get a study done without town meeting appropriating money to do that.
Thank you.
So even at the earliest stages,
Because there's money needed for that.
there's gonna be some approval process, even at the earliest stages.
But it speaks to the importance of the department heads, though. We started off with that conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
How do they do their jobs? Where do the
Yeah.
policies come from, right? It starts very, very small with someone saying, hey, I know what I'm doing and I run a department and I need something.
Mm.
It's unfortunately, it's a school for 182 million, or it's a fire station for, I don't know how much that costs.
Yeah.
Or it's a new computer system for $45,000 maybe. It can be all those things.
That's it,
Yeah.
I'm interested in the process,
Yeah.
not interested in when it gets to the ballot, it's the end of the day, basically. Okay, yeah, the citizens can say yea or nay. I'm talking about the inner workings, how do things kind of go through, right? And that's all, that's what I'm looking for.
I would say though, too, to your point, and I think it's excruciatingly slow to get something done in government because it takes approvals at so many. And that frustrates a lot of people, you know, people who are actually trying to get something done in the community.
The planning takes almost as long as the actual physical build-up.
It's just excruciatingly slow, and it's frustrating for the public, you know, certainly the business owners, the public, when you see that, you know, why can't we get this done? Well, we can't get this done because of the process that's laid out, and some of it's, you know, done by permit, you know, gotta follow the state check the boxes, you know, that the state gives you. It just takes a long time, and it's frustrating as heck. It really is. So I sense some frustration on your part too.
No, I mean, I want
Yeah.
to learn,
Yeah.
and I want to, you know, and that's just one example, but
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, from a decision-making process, that is one of the things that we're asked to look at, right? The decision-making as it's related to financial approval process, right? How does it, you know, any line item, how's it get through the process and get approved and get spent, right? So I'm interested in that. Well, we are.
Then you would hope at some point people would look into grants,
I'm sorry?
There's
right?
openings on the plan.
Gotta go next, you know?
You're forgetting about all the utilities too.
Oh, yeah. No,
Would that
so-
all go under the
I have a lot to
fire
learn.
chief's?
But I'm
like,
glad you're
budget?
asking the questions. I really am glad you're asking. the
Like
Oh,
the
oh,
fire's
okay.
Yeah.
No,
budget
that's good.
in the.
Would what go under the fire?
Like
a
if
new
the
building.
fire, yeah, the new building, if you were gonna build a new fire department, would that go under the fires or would it go?
That goes under capital improvement, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's,
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not like a line item.
Yeah, I don't want to be the
I wasn't
only one to
sure.
ask dumb questions, okay?
Excuse me. There's no dumb questions.
There's only dumb answers. There's no dumb questions.
That's great. We're good?
I'm perfect.
Okay.
This has
I'm
been
sorry.
fantastic. Our best meeting
We're
yet.
fighting over that.
It is great.
So
Final-
the next meeting is a letdown?
You set the bar awfully high.
I hope so, yeah.
Last question. Is there anything that we're not talking about that we should worry about, or think about, or be concerned about? We talked about a lot.
I think you've got the key concerns
Good to
covered.
know.
Yeah. And, you know, I know I'm speaking for all three of us. If there's question, you know, we all have meetings, there's always follow-up questions or thoughts. Feel free.
And likewise, if you have any thoughts or could, or, you know, if you
Yeah.
think of anything, email me or us, and we can work on that too. Yeah.
It should be a standing committee as opposed to a single report out. It should be evolutionary. If I sat at my desk in 2019 versus 2026, incrementally, something has changed. There should be something to address those changes as opposed to running to catch up to those changes. And for all departments here, the idea that a quarterly review, I guess if you go on a diet, you weigh yourself in the morning and at night, you're not really noting anything. You should have your once a week weigh-in.
Are you talking about communication?
Oh my goodness.
Ah,
Yes.
there's a concept.
So, yes.
That's great. Now, anybody else have anything?
Well, that's very, very good.
Very
I learned a
What-
lot about.
What's your timeline for
June.
pulling this together? I mean, I know-
June?
June.
It is
Oh.
June?
June 1st is when we're going to present our findings to the Board of Selectmen with
Oh, okay.
recommendations.
Perfect, okay.
Some of those may require town meeting, you know, action, which will happen in the fall.
Okay.
Sounds
You guys have a lot of work to do.
We do.
good.
Thank you for coming out on a second evening.
Yes,
Yes.
I wonder how
Very
much
much.
snow we have,
And
if we have any.
Tomorrow
That's a
night's
lot.
the school.
I think it's like 2
and
inches.
Thanks for taking time out, Cindy.
Of course.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
It's nice to be heard.
Wonderful. That's good
No
to hear.
problem.
That's good to hear. Okay, I think we can wrap up a couple items real quick before we adjourn. Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of 1/5 and 1/20/2026.
Second.
Nice. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. We're not doing this right. We can do a better job.
Aye, aye,
than this.
Captain. I can't hear you. I'll watch Laura's SpongeBob this
We're
week.
gonna try this again. Motion to approve the 1/5 and the 1/20/2026 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. There's an item here about the 2/23 meeting. That's not, is that next week?
No.
No, that's the week after.
Week from Monday.
So we have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, which is the 17th. And I think we left the 23rd open. I am in communication with the Assistant Town Administrator to get more panels in for the 17th and the 23rd. So I think we should have to vote to meet on the 23rd. Anybody make a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, perfect. We're gonna meet on the 23rd.
It was already in my
You
calendar.
weren't too
so-
happy about that, Rich.
The only point I'd make is that that's the same evening as the Board of Selectmen.
So you'd have to be in this room.
Yeah. I like this room.
Yeah, this room's
I don't
good.
mind this room at all.
We have this room
I
reserved
think it's more
for all
effective.
three
It's
meetings in
cozy.
February. 4 meetings, including this one.
It's
We're all
cozy.
set.
It's conducive to a conversation.
I'll just state my thinking again. I understand that, you know, time is short and meeting in the winter is better than meeting in the
Thanks for the summary, Paul.
We're not gonna do this forever.
Okay.
I said, I'll stick by it.
Okay.
Soon it's just
We're
gonna be
get through these
writing.
meetings, and then we're
And
gonna have a
we
bulk
can stay
of
home for that.
information.
You're writing? You're
I'm writing for a little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And item C, I think we'll postpone
Not writing
discussion
a
on
song.
just the timeline for deliverables.
But I can
I
organize all
think
that.
once we see some progress
Data.
from our meetings here with town officials, and we'll get a better sense for what our deliverables will be and when we want to report on them. Because I see after these meetings that we're gonna have to pick what we want to act on. What's the problem? And how are we gonna fix it? And then we gotta choose, and we'll have to vote on those things, you know, and then flesh out the report to say, here's why. That's what I see our future tasks to be.
Be like debate club.
Yep, yeah, exactly. So, those, we'll go back to bi-weekly on those meetings, okay?
Okay.
All right, still okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.